I'm a Teamster, and I'm also in IATSE union. It's locations just like falls in the cracks, and like for some reason on some shows they make us be Teamsters, which is awesome because the Teamsters get paid.
There is also like a certain like toughness, I think, that is implied with being a Teamster.
Yeah, I like it. And it's got like a horse for their logo, so I like it.
Yeah, and you got all the Hoffa history and everything else. That's a lot of fun. The one other person that comes to mind that I had a similar conversation with about this was John Worster, who is similarly probably in about 5 to 10 different bands at any one time.
We're not monogamous, John and I, when it comes to playing drums. Well, it's funny because just for years now, there was like nothing going on, and I started working in film and really enjoyed that. But like I got in this terrible car accident with my partner. And then when I got better enough to like really be able to play, I just thought, you know what? I think I kind of re-examined my priorities and just thought, I'm not getting any younger. I want to kind of go for music again. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit, but still, my focus has kind of turned to music. So, like once again, I'm in 3 bands and working harder than if I had a regular job. It seems just busier, but it's music, so it doesn't feel as much like work. It's just busy times, and I'm in like, I like to exist in the DIY kind of universe. And I really enjoy that. But what that means is that you're going to be doing a lot of stuff.
You said there was nothing going on, and I'm curious if a Janet Weiss nothing going on is similar to a regular person nothing going on, because I followed you throughout the years, and every time I look at I think it might be one of those things when you're in the middle of it where it feels like you've got, stretches of days or weeks where you're not doing a lot, but somebody looking at your career and what you've been doing, I don't honestly understand how you keep track of it all.
It's hard. I mean, it's great. It's just, I think with the modern reality of all the posting and stuff, and, trying to have an internet presence that's not just like cheesy and ridiculous. That is challenging when you have several things going on to just keep it all straight. But I think when I mean like nothing was going on, I'm referring to the period of like the 6 months when I work on a movie. And I mean, there's a lot going on for the movie, and I just am working like 12, 15-hour days, but I can't really do any music during those stretches. Maybe some practicing, but it's just impossible to do that job and book shows and make a record. And so I worked on this big project. For me, it was like half a year. It was the new Kelly Reichardt movie, which hasn't come out yet, but it was very immersive and challenging and rewarding. It was amazing. But when I was done with that, I think I just was like, I got to play some music. So I called Sam, we were like, it's like still the pandemic, so we can't like go on tour, but we, just kind of hunkered down and wrote a record, and Drew, my Slang bandmate, is my partner. So we live in the same house, and we can just go in the basement and kind of work on stuff and record there. So after I was done with like this big film project, I think I decided, let's get music happening again. Finish the Slang record, got a booking agent, got it to Kill Rock Stars, said they wanted to put it out, and just kind of things, the ball started rolling. So now I'm just hanging on for dear life. And I joined another band. 2 bands is just not enough.
You joined Jon Spencer's band, right? So it's not, that's not like a side hobby thing. That in and of itself is another serious job.
Well, here's a secret about music, folks, for all the kids out there. You just don't make any money at it. Like it's just really hard to make money at music, no matter how hard you work. Like there's plenty of bands out there that are working their asses off and they're not making any money. Like we're all doing it because we love it. We're doing it in the hopes of like creating a community and communicating with people and, using all these skills that we've learned over decades of playing together and writing music and recording music to like communicate. I mean, I feel like Jon and I both, like, we have to work, like if you're going to do music, one band is never going to pay the bills unless it's like a big band.
Yeah. The two of you are both musicians. So you're kind of in a similar boat in that respect.
And drummers, we have to keep playing or we get bad fast. We lose our timing, and you can't just like not play and expect to come back, a month later and be good. You're going to be pretty terrible. So the more you play, if you just keep playing, then it's like, you keep the chops.
Did you lose it? You alluded to the accident before, and I'm sure you're probably sick of talking about it at this point, but did you lose it? Because you're talking about a couple months where you weren't able to play.
Oh yeah. I mean, totally. And I couldn't walk for 3 months. Like I wasn't allowed to put weight on my leg, and I wasn't allowed to put weight on my arm. So I couldn't use crutches. So I was just like, in a bed or in a wheelchair. And it just destroyed me physically, like it took a long time, years, like a couple of years to like feel back, feel strong again. So yeah, it just took some commitment from my partner, Drew, and, Sam practiced with me a lot, like, to try to get my stamina back and my timing, my rhythm. And now I feel great. I like practicing a lot. Like it really helps me. And especially now that like, I don't think my legs will ever recover from that 3 months of not walking, but I feel good. And I'm happy to just be playing music and, be broke and just kind of, do that for a while at least.
It's been a while already. You've been doing this for some time now.
Yeah.
When you look at this other kind of career path that you've developed, and I assume that there is opportunity to make a living being a location manager and location scout, at a certain point, and I feel like I'm kind of getting there in my own life where I'm like sort of doing the math between like principle and what makes me happy, and then like I guess security is probably the right word.
Yeah. Well, if security had been a priority, I wouldn't have become a musician in the first place, because there's never been security. Even when, I was even like the heyday of the Sleater Kinney days when like we were touring a lot and making pretty good money, there's still no security. Like there's no saying that the next tour is going to be as big, as popular. So that's something that like I feel like I've learned to live with from, since I started playing music. It's kind of just whether I want to rely on music for making a living, which creates a whole nother set of stresses, or if I want to work my job and then in between, like part-time, like work a job and then play music and then work a job, play music. I haven't really found the right balance yet. But just kind of trying to stay in the moment a little bit more and enjoy it. I mean, that's the thing about when you almost die is that the security issue is like, what am I building all the security for? Like you could step off the curb and that's it, you're gone. So the focus has kind of changed after the accident, and just trying to like enjoy what I'm doing now and be more in the moment. I think it's the way to happiness, really. Stop thinking about the future so much.
Watching you play, you've always struck me as somebody who really enjoys her job. There clearly has always been a joy in it for you. But do you feel that prior to the accident that you had gotten to a point where you had, to a certain extent, started taking it for granted?
I guess I wouldn't say taking it for granted, but maybe it's hard to explain. like letting the difficulties that are associated with touring or bandmates or, you know, relationships, letting those kind of become big, you know, and really it's like if you can just kind of rejigger that to like the music is big and the other stuff is
getting hooked on the sort of the negative things and focusing on that too much.
The hard things. Yeah. And like losing my ability to like change the narrative, you know, and like make it positive. Like I just got like worn out of, you know, and I was losing the ability to do that. And then the accident just kind of like flushed all that away. Like, you know, then you're just kind of starting new. You have a new perspective. Your people have like come through for you in like this profound way. It's like I feel very re-energized from that, like across my life, not just music. So, I mean, I just tend to think that people's music reflects their life, you know, and who they are and what they believe in and, you know, their emotions and their outlook. And that has become more clear after the accident.
I had Mary Clayton on the show, the singer.
Mm-hmm.
She went through a really horrific car accident. What, you know, was similarly in a lot of pain. She ended up losing both of her legs. It was just horrible. But she told me, and you know, she's recounted the accident a number of times. That, you know, she was in the I guess the ER or the OR, and her number one question was whether or not she could sing again. And it's sort of like, you know, when you're at that point, if that's the first thing that you're thinking about, like clearly that's the thing that you're meant to do, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there was a very comical moment of being in the ER and the surgeon, after looking at the x-rays, comes in and says like, oh, you have, which I kind of knew, I felt what was wrong, but he's like, you know, you have 2 broken legs and he broke your collarbone. And I was just like, wow, a drummer with 2 broken legs and a broken collarbone. I mean, you just have to laugh at that moment, you know, like I hope I can recover. So there is a lot of uncertainty that is like, you know, that's, I guess being a musician all those years, I learned to deal with uncertainty, I think more, but this was like, you know, a very psychic uncertainty of like, you know, like you say, like, am I going to be able to do this again? So it's a huge relief to like, I can do it. I may not be 100%, but I can do it.
Was that one of the things that immediately flashed through your minds when it happened? And was that a question that you asked of the doctors?
Yeah, over and over and over. And I just kept reminding them like, hey, I'm a drummer. Like I need to be able to like move this thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm like a middle-aged woman. They're probably like, oh, you know, she needs to, you know, she'll be fine. You know, what does she have to do? But I just kept reminding them like, no, you don't understand. I need to be able to carry like heavy amps and go on tour. So yeah, it was a little scary, but Drew is a gymnastics coach. That's his day job. So I feel incredibly fortunate that I had my own personal coach to like keep me on the rails, you know, and like he's so used to dealing with people and their fears and getting them to do really hard things and how to like incrementally teach people how to do hard things, that it was very helpful. I never learned that stuff as a kid, I don't think. I mean, I just never learned how to like set a goal and reach it. You know, that's just not something that my parents or anybody taught me. I just kind of figured it out on my own. So he really helped in that regard, coming back.
So there was never a question of whether you would go back. It was just more a question of when.
I mean, in my mind, but, you know, I still was like, I hope that's right. I hope that's reality. But you can't really, I don't know. You can't let yourself worry too much because you're trying to heal, you know?
Sure. I just mean from the standpoint, you weren't like, I'm going to be a realtor now.
No, I have my other job. Like, that job is not easy either. So it's not like I have this cushy job I can fall back on.
And I'm sure you're probably standing all the time for that one too, right?
Yeah, it's really physically demanding. And so there's nothing in my life that's like, you could take this easy path. But mostly, you know, the drumming is the important thing to me. And walking my dog, playing drums. I can still sing. I can do the important stuff.
What do you attribute that to, that you've never really taken the easy path with anything? Do you like a challenge?
Not really. I just think I didn't have a mom that like taught me very much. She didn't teach me very much. And I feel like I had to figure everything out. My sisters and I kind of had to figure everything out on our own and together. And so like the way we do things is not always like the best path from A to Z. You know, this is how you do it. And I think that's part of it, is like, I just had to teach myself, you know, and so you kind of teach yourself wrong sometimes. And you teach yourself, you know, there's an easier way, but you don't know it. I would take the easy way if I could, but I don't mind working hard on things that I really enjoy doing. I really don't. I like to be busy. I'm not a homebody type person. I love my dog, but I don't, you know, if I never had to cook another meal, I wouldn't care. Like, I'm not into like I don't watch TV.
You're not domestic.
I'm not domestic. So I like to work on stuff and I like to have projects and I'd like to be busy. I mean, I'm looking at my desk. It's just like, there's just so many things happening. I like to multitask, and, you know, part of that is just, I don't know. It's like, that's not always good. Like sometimes you need to like slow down, and, you know, I try to do breathing exercises and, you know, calm down. But kind of my natural state is like doing things. I just made a slang video, and, you know, I like doing all the stuff that goes along with being in a band, the artistic stuff. That I'm not an artist, but I'm like a dabbler in things. So I like doing the album covers and just making posters and doing the videos. And it's fun. Making t-shirts. It's really fun for me.
With Sleater Kinney in particular, it seems like that was just part of, I think, what all three of you did. And certainly that was a part of the scene that the three of you came out of as well. The difference being that most bands and musicians, when they hit a certain point, they start outsourcing all of that.
Yeah, which that band did start, like hiring people to do that stuff. But I still want to do it. So, you know, now like Quasi, Sam is a great artist. And if I can beat him to it, you know, I can do stuff. And Slang, I'm getting to do a lot of really fun artistic stuff. And, you know, just like your basic creativity is like super rewarding.
Are you competitive with stuff like that? I mean, you're I think semi-joking about Sam there, but are you a competitive person generally?
I mean, not with him. I feel like I like to gamble. Does that mean I'm competitive?
You mean like literally gamble or like metaphorically? Yeah. Okay.
I love
like
gambling.
You like going to Vegas, and
I love gambling. I just like it. I like betting on stuff, and it's really fun. But no, I mean, I would never be competitive with him about art stuff because he's so much better than me at it. Like, I just feel like the best person should be doing it. Like, we have a good working relationship because he's less social than me. And I'm used to for my job, and just my personality is just more like outgoing and talkative, and he's internal, and I don't write lyrics, so I have to like team up with these great lyricists, or I'm in trouble. I don't know. I just feel like there's a good balance. It's not so much competitive. I don't think it's competitive in bands. I mean, I might be competitive in like, I don't know. I like to be good at stuff, but I'm not sure I'm trying to beat everybody.
Generally, when I talk to people in bands, and generally when I talk to people who are like leaders in bands, the vast majority of them tell me that there's a certain extent to which it settled into running it almost dictatorially, because that there needs to be like one person in charge of the larger decisions, and that's basically how things get done.
Yeah, I'm not in those kinds of bands. I'm in bands where like you do what you're good at, and then everybody picks the thing they're best at and then kind of handles that. Yeah, I feel like it's more of a collaboration. And then you pick your battles. There's like sometimes when like one person feels really strongly about something, and then the other people, say, okay, well, that doesn't matter to me so much, so let's do it your way on that. But I feel like because it's not like everybody's getting rich doing it, like everybody should feel involved and feel like they're not being made to do something they don't want to do. The whole dictator thing is not I'm not into that, like for the world or for a band. I feel like it should be, cooperative and collaboration. There should be a sense of equality that exists within the band. But that doesn't mean that like every decision, like sometimes one person won't care, or the other person makes the shirt, or, one person talks to the booking agent. Like, it doesn't mean that we're all like, drinking our tea in a circle and like, like discussing every single little thing to death.
Again, from the outside, even with the bands that you're in, a lot of that dynamic really depends on the people, right? Like I assume that like Quasi or Slang is maybe different than joining up with Jon Spencer. I mean, I get the sense that, and this could be wrong, or even like, even like the Jicks, where it's something that kind of starts off as somebody's specific vision, and then you're figuring out where you slot into that and how you move it forward.
Definitely. When their name is on it, they're the dictator. So like I have been in bands like that where it's one person's thing. But when I say like, when I talk about like Slang or Quasi, like those are collaborative. Like Jon Spencer's band, that's not collaborative. Like he makes all the decisions. It's his band, it's his vision. I'm just joining, like to kind of help him, like, I can put my personality into it, but it's mostly fleshing out his thing, which he has, worked really hard at over all these years. So that's just a whole different way of doing it. That's like, I guess it's true. I am in those bands sometimes. I don't probably I wouldn't start that kind of band, but the Jicks were like that too. It was collaborative, but it was ultimately Steve's thing. And he doesn't care about a lot of stuff. So like he pretty much gives you a lot of freedom to do what you want. But there are, it's his, I mean, he let me make the t-shirts, like he doesn't care about every little thing. Like Jon is more of like a tour, like working on a Kelly Reichardt movie. Like she cares about everything. There's no detail that she doesn't want to be a part of making, or a part of like making the decisions about. So it's interesting. I mean, it's fun to like play with all these different people.
Yeah. And maybe there's a sense in which Sleater Kinney is also in that sort of, I mean, obviously you were a big part of the band, but kind of,
I mean, actually that band was the most equal. That was the most democratic band of all of them. I mean, it was 3 people, 3 votes. Every vote has equal weight. We made the decisions together. Yeah, it was very democratic. There was no like I'm the boss. Yeah, so that was a great, a great thing to kind of come up with.
I've heard you describe the moment you knew it was time to leave that band, and it sounds sort of similar to, obviously without the same amount of time invested, but the experience with the Jicks, and that, I would sort of liken it to being in a relationship with someone where a lot of times people just try to keep things going to the detriment of themselves and their own mental health for the sake of like keeping things together and not really knowing when it's time to walk away.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got their own ways of deciding like what's best for them. And, with something like that, that's like a huge part of your life and your identity. It's just, you have to really think hard about it. Like any other relationship that you've been in for over 20 years, like it's not an easy decision, and everybody's really different, like some people stay in relationships, some people can't have relationships, like there's so much good there that I just want to like focus on. It was time for me to leave, and I'm never the last person at the party. Like I don't want to just, I don't know. It was time, and it was really hard, and every situation is different. The Jicks, totally different kind of scenario. But it's just the idea that like nothing is forever. It's like good to kind of keep in mind that like you're not going to crumble and disintegrate, like it's good to challenge yourself to like try different things and, not maybe feel like you're stuck somewhere, you're able to have motion in your life. I think is really good to keep in mind.
It sounds like you're in a nice position now where you're able to do multiple projects. And I suspect that when you have one really big band, that's your focus, you can't invest your creativity into other things. You really have to just be in that one thing. And if that one thing is draining you, then that kind of makes your life that much worse.
Yeah. I mean, I was still able to, I was always in 2 bands, sometimes 3. And the good thing is that was a band that actually you could make a living at. So that, that was really a great help to like doing other things. So it wasn't really that. I mean, I think I'm capable of doing like a lot at once. It's a hard thing to talk about.
Sure. Slang was technically, it's been a band for 10 years. Is that right?
10 years. I couldn't tell you that. I mean, we started like,
I read that somewhere. So let's go with that.
Years. I don't know if it's, well, maybe almost. Drew and I have been together a little over 10 years. But I was always kind of fascinated with people like Emmylou Harris or Linda Ronstadt that like had a whole massive careers where they never wrote a song. So we were like, let's just play covers, and play like a whole show of covers. And which for me is really fun that I get to like pick all these songs. That's something that I really love doing, is like picking covers and finding things that would be really good just for us, And so we started just doing that, and like kind of obscure covers. So it was a little bit less like, we're not in like an 80s cover band or something. It was like songs that people might not have known. So we started just doing that for fun. And we were both in other bands and, just out of the desire to kind of play together. And, we traveled around a little bit and played some shows, and it was really fun. And then eventually started writing songs and recording, and like, well, maybe we need a band now. So then putting the band together, it just progressed slowly. up until this point where, we're putting a record out and playing shows, and we've got our kick-ass band, and things are moving now.
It must have been a nice change to do something with just absolutely zero pressure and zero expectations of it even becoming a band.
I mean, that is fun. I mean, the idea of doing covers is like, you could just pick the best songs, you don't have to write them. You just find them and pick them. And, Drew's such an incredible singer that, like, I mean, you can pick a Aretha Franklin song if you want. Like, he can actually sing that.
He can do an Aretha Franklin song?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like, no problem. He knows it all super well. And then he, that's really fun to be able to pick songs for someone who really can sing, like, I mean, Korn, similar thing, like someone who can really sing. Like, you go to karaoke and the KJ person is just like, oh, wow, you should do something with that. Like even they can see like, wow, this is like a real singer.
I'm doing karaoke tonight for the first time in like 2 years since the start of the pandemic. And I'm like, these are the 3 to 5 songs that I think.
Well, that's like most of us. That's all the regular people. But then there's like the singers that get to do a lot of other songs. But yeah.
What was that sort of change? Like, what was that moment where it was like, oh, this is something more than just a lark?
I mean, I don't think there was like the moment, but we started kind of working on music in the basement and like heavily collaborating on the songs, sort of in the computer world, like tracking and then rearranging and, just kind of, it's just downstairs, so it's like you're able to sort of go down and like work on it when you have free time. And one of us would be down there and then the other one would be down there, and then we'd check out, oh, what did you do? What did you do? Like we added stuff kind of on our own, and sometimes we'd go down together and just improvise and then we actually got kind of a group of songs together. And then we had Sam, my Quasi bandmate, came and played some bass on the songs. And he's just one of my favorite bass players. So it was like a no-brainer to just like, let's get Sam to put some bass on it. So he came over and did that. And then it started to really kind of take shape. But we still it still wasn't like a band until we got Kathy and Anita on board. And then it was, now it really feels like, a band. And the pandemic kind of just like, put up a big roadblock right when we were getting going. So it's fun now to like be booking shows and playing shows. And I feel like we still need to like find our bearings as a band and like, go through all those challenging experiences together and the team building stuff that happens when you're, like, I don't know, your monitors are not working or like, things that kind of are challenging.
Trust exercises.
Yes, exactly.
I assume that like once you're at a certain level and once you're bringing people into your band that are at a certain level, like if you're bringing Kathy into the band, for example, there's an expectation that you're going to be taking it seriously.
Well, we all do other stuff too. I feel like that's kind of like, we try to avoid that.
You try to avoid being serious?
Yeah, because that's kind of like, the death of fun, is to like put tons of pressure on yourself. And I think like Kathy, especially, who's had so much experience and traveled the world playing music, and she's still just like a real easygoing person. And Anita too, like, it's not like, I feel like we all are just enjoying it and not like putting these goals on it and like expectations. But we do want to get out and play. And, there was a huge global pandemic. And then now it's like, now everybody wants to tour. So it's like, it's just the same challenges as ever, like it's always been like not for the faint of heart. And like, we're all experienced. So we know like not to expect too much, and that you do kind of have to pay your dues, even for us. And we've all, the collective hours of playing shows and making records, which is high. We've made a lot of records between all of us, but we still, you have to start at the start. You don't get to just jump in the middle. That just doesn't really happen.
Yeah, I guess I should rephrase. I didn't mean serious as like an absence of fun, because clearly you're still having fun. I just meant serious from the standpoint of we're getting people in this band. Like, we should start touring and we should put out a record, like, let's make this band a band.
Yeah, I mean, that's just more from what, like, that's what we enjoy. We like doing that. We like I say, like, having a project and seeing it through is, big part of being a musician. You just have to be able to do that on your own. So, but we are all from a DIY scene, Thermals especially, they were doing a lot of it themselves, and so it's great to be in a band with someone like Kathy that knows how to do stuff, she knows, how to do a tour and what it is, and mostly just being with people who know what to expect. I don't think we're in a position where we can just like go out on a big, huge tour, like people have to hear the music first. Just because we're in the band doesn't mean people are going to show up to your show. They have to actually have a connection with the music, I think. And maybe it will make them check out the music, so you have an advantage in that. People, they want to know what you're up to, so they'll check it out, but they have to like it, I think, to really get any sort of momentum going.
You do have a secret weapon though, which are these double booked tours of and you've done it a couple of times, and I think you're doing it with the upcoming Jon Spencer tour, right? Yeah. Is that a split Quasi Jon Spencer?
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, just like expenses wise, and like everybody's there. You may as well just, it's fun, first of all, but there's a convenience factor to it that like you kill two birds with one stone. I mean, I've done it in the past, we'll see if it's still, there's a lot of double duty tours coming up. So I'm hoping that it works. But yeah, it's like, you're going to, half of you are going to be there already. So you may as well team up.
That's kind of the ultimate test of your stamina though, right?
Yeah, it is. We'll see how that goes. I'm always like, I don't know. I mean, I think I can do it, but we'll see.
Is the Slang record kind of an outgrowth of the pandemic and just being home? And
I think it was almost completed before the pandemic. I mean, I think personally, like, the thing that the pandemic did for me was it slowed me down, like, my recovery, so that I didn't bite off way too much too soon, which I would have done. And it just forced me to like really recover. Cause I was just like, I want to go. And I probably would have planned too much. So if there was any sort of good to come out of it, which it is really, it feels wrong to say that, considering, that would be it. I mean, I think it gave Slang time to like kind of make a plan, which is good, and kind of get our ducks in a row. So that, we're like everybody else, we were just kind of waiting for it to open up enough so that we could get going.
Was there a sense by the time it happened and once everybody started complaining about, not being able to leave their homes, that you were like, I've I've been through this. I've experienced this before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually worked, I mean, the film world like never shut down. It just, there were these really strict protocols. There's so much money in that business that they're like, oh, we'll just funnel all this money into like everyday testing and all these, procedures and ways to keep everyone safe. So like, I actually just kept working. So I didn't really, there was that first shutdown time, which was really, kind of just to like be outside and there was no car noise and the animals were sort of taking over. It was really,
it's kind of nice. Nature
yeah, to
was
like see what it's just the fact that like civilization can actually slow down that much. Like you just don't think it's possible. It seems absolutely like it would never happen, but it did happen briefly. But I didn't like I say, I'm not really a homebody person. So I just kind of kept working and hoping that music was going to come back. I did feel like people were sort of taking advantage of music, like or burn out on music before the pandemic. And like, oh, there's so many great bands and I can just see a show whenever I want. And I'm going to stream my music and not like pay the bands or whatever. I feel like now, like after the pandemic, everyone's so like appreciative and it really woke people up to the fact that like, if music goes away, it's a really bad thing. And we will all suffer, without music. And the musician is something to celebrate. So I think that's maybe another positive outcome. I mean, I don't think this whole thing's over yet, but I do think, some shifts in like perspective have happened in regards to musicians and bands and music and shows, and people seem very re-energized and like appreciative.
Not to say that you were ever taking it for granted from the standpoint of the fan base, but you mentioned the GoFundMe earlier when you had the accident, and that must have been a really profound experience of seeing all these people really reach out and want to do what they can do to help, and in some cases just absolute strangers.
Yeah, it was like nothing that I've ever experienced and will ever experience. I mean, absolutely profound like connection to people, and like it's just so heavy to feel that kind of like love and support. I mean, it's not like strangers. It's like people who listen to your music, so it's like there is a relationship there. It's just not someone face to face. Yeah, that was just absolutely mind blowing. And again, it's like, how do you not come away with a positive outlook after something like that? And, part of me even felt like a little guilty, like, oh my God, like some people don't have this and everyone should have this, it's like the best, most incredible feeling that you could have. And just, you want to like make sure you foster that and like, give that back, keep giving that back throughout like your life. I mean, it's like my family,
You are somebody who has struck me as always being, like fiercely independent. Was it hard to ask for help?
Yes. Incredibly difficult in lots of levels. Just the inner struggle of like, I'm stuck in a bed for 3 months, like I had to rely on people for everything. It's not my natural state. But, again, like my family and my friends, like the fans, like if people really came through like in a massive way, Drew and my sister, and just like, I couldn't, when it first happened, like I couldn't be by myself because they were afraid I would like fall out of the bed. I was on all these meds, and so I had to have like people there with me and friends just showing up and kind of like making me think that like they're just coming by to visit. But like I know they're like on the schedule, to make sure I don't fall down. And people just going way, way above and beyond. Yeah, you never get over something like that. Like it's like you went through something painful and like difficult, but the positives just really far outweigh the negatives.
How much of the rehabilitation process was, Drew or Sam or, whoever sort of getting you out of bed and kind of compelling you to sort of sit down and lay down a drum track or, restart the process of making music?
Well, Drew really got me through like all the really difficult physical challenges. And then my sister also was, like moved to Portland like the day after the accident to like help take care of me. But I mean, no one had to like
had to force you to make music.
No one had to push me. Like I had like my iPad and I would work on GarageBand stuff. And then I had an electronic kit and I would wheel my wheelchair up to it and start playing. And I mean, I was eager to get back. It just, I didn't know like what I was really capable of, but I just, in my typical like not learning how to do things right fashion, I just started doing it, and I pushed myself. But they, I remember Kathy coming over and Sam coming over and, Drew helping me get the kit set up and, getting the iPad working and, just, I did need help with even small things, but I was pretty eager to like start playing again.